may or may not know that Tagalog, the language that many Filipinos speak, borrows a lot of words from Spanish. But it's also interesting to know that a lot of insulting Tagalog words also come from Spanish.
Hola Kabayan, I'm Alex and I'm here to help you learn Spanish. I moved to Spain 10 years ago at wala akong masyadong alam na Espanyol noon. Kaya medyo nahirapan ako kasi hindi ko alam kung paano mamili sa isang supermarket kasi hindi ko naiintindihan yung mga salita doon. Kaya nag-aral ako ng masinsinan para makapag-survive ako dito. Ginawa ko ang channel na ito para makatulong sa aking mga kapwa Pinoy na gusto ring matutong mag-Espanyol.
It's been fun to learn that a lot of Tagalog insults have Spanish roots. In Spanish, you have words that end in O to indicate that it's masculine, and it ends in A to indicate that it's feminine. For example, you would say guapo for a handsome male and guapa for a beautiful female. So in Tagalog, this is a clue that a word is from Spanish, because in general, Tagalog doesn't have gender indicators. So if you have this O and A, then the word probably comes from Spanish, and this includes the following insults that I will discuss. So let's start. First off, we have the word loko-loko or loka-loka, which in Tagalog we use to describe someone who is crazy. This comes from the Spanish word loco or loca, and it also means crazy. But since we Filipinos like to repeat words, we say loko-loko or loka-loka. But the word loco can also be used as a verb, meaning to fool, trick, or deceive someone. For example, you can say, niloloko mo ako, and this translates to you are tricking, fooling, or deceiving me. In Tagalog, loco can also be used to describe the person who is doing this action. For example, you can say, loko ka, if you are talking to someone you think is trying to fool or deceive you. Next, we have the word bobo or boba. In Tagalog, we use this word to call someone stupid or not very smart. It comes from the word bobo or boba in Spanish. It's the exact same word, and it also has almost the exact meaning to indicate that someone could be an idiot, not very smart, or quite slow in thinking. Then we have the word inutil, which means useless. We use it in Tagalog to insult someone who we think is useless. And inutil is the exact same word in Spanish, and it has the exact same meaning, useless. But I did find out just a few days ago that in Tagalog, inutil has a sexual connotation, and it refers usually to men. I'll just leave it to your imagination to figure out what it actually means. Next is the Tagalog word chismoso or chismosa, and it's almost exactly the same word in Spanish. Chismoso or chismosa means gossip in both languages. The words are just spelled a little differently because in Tagalog you spell it with a TS, and in Spanish you spell it with a CH. Next, pilyo or pilya. In Tagalog, this means naughty, and we often use it for children. In Spanish, pillo or pilla has a very similar meaning. You would use this word to describe someone who is considered a rascal or is naughty as well. Now the word demonyo, or sometimes you would say demonita for a female. In Tagalog, we use this to describe someone who we consider evil or very bad. In Spanish, the word demonyo means devil, and they don't actually have the word demonia in the dictionary, not unless you use Google Translate. The next few words are also used to describe someone you consider evil. You've got maldita, and interestingly enough, this is usually used in Tagalog in the feminine sense. I often hear maldita, but I rarely hear maldito. In Spanish, the word maldito or maldita has a similar negative connotation, for example, to describe someone who is perverse, but it can also mean someone who is damned or cursed. They also say maldita sea to mean damn or damn it. The next word is salvaje in Tagalog, which means a bad person. For example, we would say salvaje ka to mean you are a bad person. In Spanish, though, the word salvaje is used to describe something that is wild, usually, for example, an animal. You would say animal salvaje, elefante salvaje. So it doesn't have the same connotation that it does in Tagalog, where we mean that a person is bad or evil. Moving on to the word bruja in Tagalog, It's very rare to hear the word brujo, although I've heard that used as well. But unfortunately, the word bruja is more commonly used to refer to an evil woman. In Spanish, bruja means witch and brujo means warlock. The following Tagalog word is usually used for men this time, and it means a goon, a bully, or a thug. Maton in Spanish means pretty much the same thing, but they also have the female equivalent, which is matona, which also refers to the female thug or bully. The next word is similar in meaning to maton, and that's sangano. In Tagalog, we use this word to refer to someone who is a goon or a thug or someone who's a loafer. In Spanish, the word is tangano and its female counterpart is tangana. It refers to someone who is lazy, a mooch, a slacker, a loafer, or someone who lives off others. The word doesn't have the similar meaning as it does in Tagalog. That means someone who is a goon or a thug. The following word, bolero or bolera, is used to describe someone who likes to stretch the truth a little bit, but in a flattering way. So if someone likes to compliment other people too much, that person would be called a bolero or a bolera. You can also use the word bolero to describe someone who's a bit of a joker. So when you're called bolero, it's not really to mean that you're an evil person, it's more that you like to butter people up or suck up to other people.
But in Spanish, bolero or bolera simply means liar.
Next, we have bastos, which in Tagalog means rude, crude, or vulgar. The word in Spanish is actually basto without the S and with the accent on the first syllable. It also means rude and crude. The following word is similar to bastos, and that word is fresco. When used to describe people, this means that you are rude or arrogant. It comes from the word fresco, and in Spanish, when used to describe a person, it also means the same thing, when someone is insolent or shameless. Then we have the word antipatico or antipatica, which in Tagalog is used to describe someone who is not very nice or is quite unfriendly. It actually means the same thing in Spanish, antipatico or antipatica, almost identical except that it uses a C, and it means that someone is unfriendly or unpleasant. The next word is suplado or suplada, which in Tagalog we use to refer to someone who thinks too highly of himself or herself. It comes from the Spanish word soplado or soplada, and it means the same thing, someone who is conceited, snobbish, or stuck up. The word disgraciada was actually brought to my attention by a Spanish man. He told me he was surprised to learn that this word means a disgraced woman or a woman who was pregnant out of wedlock. I told him that yes, this is true. This is the definition of disgraciada in Tagalog.
There's even a movie in the 70s entitled Disgraciada starring Rio Locsin and another one in the 90s starring Rufa Gutierrez.
It's quite sexist because you don't use the word disgraciado to refer to a man who has a child out of wedlock. Now, it comes from the Spanish word desgraciado or desgraciada, and this means unlucky or miserable. In Spanish, this word could be used insultingly to describe a person who is considered a wretch or is unpleasant, but it definitely does not have the same very specific meaning that it does in Tagalog. The next word is impacto or impacta, which is sometimes used in Tagalog to describe an evil person. I actually haven't found this in Spanish dictionaries to have the same meaning, only that impacto means impact or shock. But I read somewhere, not in a Spanish dictionary though, that impacto meant evil spirit. So maybe it had this evil spirit meaning centuries ago, but currently it has lost that sense of the word. The following word, I'm not exactly sure comes from Spanish, but I'm going to include it in the list because there's a Spanish word exactly like it. That word is sutil, and in Tagalog, it means stubborn. We often use it to describe children who refuse to listen to their parents or their other elders. Now, the Spanish sutil actually means subtle, which is why it's a bit difficult to make the connection between the Tagalog and Spanish words. But the word sutil can also mean sharp or perceptive in Spanish, so maybe the word evolved somehow from this word. I think it's just interesting that the word exists in both languages with widely different definitions. The next one, I'm not entirely sure if it's related, but there's an exact word like it in Spanish, and that word is gago or gaga, which is actually a mild swear word in Tagalog. It's used insultingly for a person who is silly, foolish, senseless, or even crazy. In Spanish, gago or gaga means someone who stammers or stutters. So the meanings aren't very similar, and I'm not even sure they're related, but I thought it would be interesting to point out that the word exists in both languages. If you know of other insulting Tagalog words that come from Spanish, please write them down in the comment section below. I'd love to add to my list.
If you want to learn more Spanish, panoorin mo ang video na ito.